Multifaceted personality. Not taking much of your time, I would hand over the platform to architect Anjali Lovekar to share her insights with us. Over to you, Anjali.
Thank you, Uttara. Hello, my co-designers, fellow designers, attendees, and students. It's the Friday afternoon weekend, and with the lockdown in tow, I don't know if the students are really, wanting to come back to a 2 afternoon session for this. But well, I guess they have no choice. So here we are. And about what Uttara says, all those awards and citations, I seem to have really forgotten that I'm an architect the entire year last year. It's been a bad year for all of us, but I suppose there is light at the end of the tunnel. Stay safe, people, and take all the precautions. And let's go ahead with our session today so that you are left with some time to have the question answer session if you really want to. Now, today's topic, the cognitive spatial perception, sounds like a big topic, something that Shashi Tharoor would talk about. But it's basically very easy. I have given the meaning in the same topic that I declared to you. It's a conscious intellectual activity. So basically, this is for the students. There used to be some people who walked into our office and told us that my daughter is very good at drawing work and my son is very good at drawing work, and we want him to become an architect. Now, in a way, being good at drawing or being good with art doesn't necessarily mean you will make a good architect. So we are not artists. We have to discipline ourselves. We have creative minds, but we don't have creative freedom, basically. So function is very, very important for all of us, and so is the form. And that is what makes us architects. We have to have a spatial analysis. We have to have a clean analytical mind. We also have to be psychoanalysts to the clients who, have various kind of requirements and idiosyncrasies and all that. So taking into account all that, whenever you step into the practice, you have to make sure that you have developed an overall personality to handle every aspect of being an architect. Also, giving you some background about the both of us, Anjali and Ashwin Lovekar of Lovekar Design Associates. I come from a background where my mother has been a teacher and my father has been into a technical background. So for me, all I knew when I joined architecture was just the spelling. On the other hand, Ashwin came from a background where his family had a lot of architects. His mama was an architect, and he sort of grew with that exposure. So for me, I realized once I passed out that to start on my own, I needed a lot of exposure. I had to give that time. I had to open my eyes, ears, and every other sense. I had to keep it open to absorb everything that came to me and that was related to design. Maybe it was fashion, maybe it was food, maybe it was presentation, maybe it was the page layouts of magazine. Everything that was designed or designed made a mark on my mind. And I suggest you students, you people are very young and have minds that are so clean and absorbent that you should all do it too. It really works, especially for those who don't have a background. So having said that, let's start with the presentation. Now let me try and so now let me start with the presentation to you, cognitive spatial perception, which also means a conscious intellectual activity.
Ma'am, sorry to disturb you. Can you go to full screen?
Sorry?
Can you go to full screen?
Full screen, yes, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Is this fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now we have 3 projects. One is Timo, the Black Box Bistro, which is a restaurant, about 100 seats restaurant, day and night both. other is the AG Experience Center, which is a granite and tiles and niche tiles, very, very expensive tiles showroom, which is actually an experience center. And the Spectrum House, which is a house that we faced the challenges with. I'll share the challenges as in how we proceed with the slides. So these are the three different genres that I chose to share with you. Depending on the functions of the place, all three functions are entirely different. So we had to deal with the spaces in a different manner each time. But at the same time, there is a common thread, which is our philosophy of design, as you see it. Clear thinking, clean lines, bold colors, highlighting of certain aspects, sometimes turning the negative aspects of space into positive aspects. So all these are the underlying currents that you will see in all the three projects. So basically, we start with space planning, then we go into the conceptualization, and then we go into the detailing. Of course, all this is taking into account the function of the space, requirement of the people, and the actual site conditions that are existing. So let me take you through TIMO first. So now this was the basic plan that we got from the client. Now this is a site which has a southwest facade which is really hot. This whole site is situated at a height, surrounded by hills, but further away. This is the southwest facade, and I don't know why we built so many glass buildings, but we have a glass facade here. When we don't want to let in light, ours is a country which has ample light all the time. So I don't know why we want so much glass to let in extra heat to control the temperature and to control the light. But anyway, we were given this site. So southwest facade is this facade which brought in too much heat and too much light through the entire time. And for a restaurant which is going to be a lunch restaurant, it's going to be a bistro, it's going to have its own ambience. We can't have so much light seeping in all the time. It doesn't feel cozy, it doesn't feel right at all. It's really, really hot. Then on this side, we had the east entry, and this side, this is the road side. Is my cursor seen by you all?
Yes, we are able to see.
This was the east entry, and this was the southwest facade. This is another part of the building where somebody else houses this place. Okay. Now, for a linear place like this, with the south facade, what do? When you walk inside this place, you have to analyze, you have to be there for 2 minutes on your own and analyze what all it is telling you. That is very, very important. So basically, these are the drawings which I will come back to later once we have gone and seen the before photos and after photos. So now can you see this glass facade? This picture is not still so much in the day, but this is a hot box. Really, really hot box for lunch. But at the same time, it has a prime location and it was good for a restaurant. So the owners have given us this place and we want to turn it positively into a place which can be good at lunchtime and at dinner time. Okay. Now, when you stand here, you really know what to do. The most obvious solution is to block off this wall. But that does not help because you have to let in some light, you have to let in some visual aspect of what is happening beyond. If you've ever observed, whenever you walk into a restaurant, you would like to sit in a place where you can see a little bit of outside, where you can interact with the outside. And then this is the seat that gets filled up last. If you have ever observed that in 2s or 4s. So we were very sure that if there was a couple walking in, they would like to sit by this end of the table and interact with the outside and with themselves. So we have to build a facade over here. Now we can't close it off also. We can't keep it open. Then what do? So now I'll tell you the solutions that we have come up with. Again, this is the side where we wanted to keep the language in tandem, but not keep it so open so that whenever somebody is passing by, they would not feel that it is a private dining place. So now both these facades have been treated. This is on the east side, where it is a checkered grid, where the visually it is more open. Visually it interacts more with the outside since it's the entry point. And this is the southwest, where we have tried to screen it off, but we are still letting the light in, and the light is now going to play a dramatic role in making the restaurant. Can you see this? The color pop here is only by way of the bar counter and the light fittings and the upholstery. So this is how the entrance changed. This is the checkered grid that allows in the visual contact, and this is how it was. Now this is still not that time of the day when the heat was a lot. This is the east side and this is the southwest side. This we closed off because there was not a good view outside, and also we wanted some storage space. But this was very, very important. And although when this came in, it was a very, very negative point that we noted about the site. We've turned it to our favor. This is how it looks now. So this is the east. So somebody sitting at this table can view through, but somebody sitting at this table, see, this is how it looks. So this is how it got built. These are the blocks, terracotta blocks imported from Vietnam, and they now form the screen, but the screen is not a dead screen. You see these punctures? These are for maintenance. Also, they also make the light play very well. I'll show you in the next snap. So this is a metal grid into which they were fit exactly to the module, and this screen was formed. And this is the east screen. Can you see outside? There is a road. And this is where a visual contact was necessary. There is a highway on this side and there are hills on this side, but it is very, very hot. Because of this glass facade, it is very, very hot. Now, having said that, having decided that light was going to be the major player in this on this site, we decided to color the entire facade black. The ceiling was black, the storage was black, the blocks were black, this checkered grid was black, and this was the pop of color as the highlight of the whole place. So this is how the daylight plays here. Can you see this? This is how the daylight plays. The floor is black. The floor is black cement floor. This is all black. The services are hidden here. All this is black. And when you walk in, what you see is the play of light, which happens in the evening as well, and which happens in the day as well, with this as the color pop. So from a hot box, it turned out to be a soothing black box. This is how intimate it feels by the wall now, instead of sitting in the open. And also you can see through these punctures. It's not as if you can't. You can maintain a visual contact right up to the end through these punctures. This is by the entry side, the east side, where it is much quieter, much cooler, and where the visual perforation is more, so that you can look out. So if you're waiting for somebody, you know that somebody is coming on this road, you can see the person walking in. Now this is the night view as you see it. So there is this wall, dead wall, which belongs to the other property on the other side. And this is a visual texture in the same color, in the similar color. This is stone, this is stone texture, which runs through the entire passage like this. And on the other side, the bar counter offsets by its color. So this is how you walk in. This is all the east facade. You come in, you walk along this, and you go either upstairs or you go to the lounge area. This is how it looks at night. Very quiet, very calm. This is how it looks like. This is the lounge area where there is a library, there are curios, and where you get, probably they were planning to have board games and everything, but it was not in place by the time we finished the project, so that people could come here and lounge, and it was a lounge bar or a coffee bar, or it was a party place which could be hired for some time by smaller groups. So by making it totally black, we cut out the light, which was excessive and which was really, really infuriating for lunchtime. Now you can make out the drawings here. If I go back, now I hope you understand the drawing facades as to how it looks. This is the entire southwest facade. That's the bar counter. And that is the lounge area behind the bar counter. This is the way you go up, and a similar setup happens upstairs along with the kitchen. This is the entrance door with the east side with more punctures, and that's the bar counter. So coming back to this, turning this into this is definitely a conscious intellectual activity, according to me. There is a thought process involved. There are multiple influences involved on the basis of which you arrive at a conclusion like this. Somebody may deal with it differently, but this is how we have dealt with it in a cleaner and simpler fashion. The beauty of this place during the daytime now is the play of this light. This is how it is. And these are the tables that get occupied first. The lounge being a group activity that was definitely placed at the end. You want me to maximize it, right? I keep forgetting. This was kept at the end of the space so that whoever the group is, they could make as much noise as they wanted and they wouldn't disturb the restaurant. People who came in for a quiet lunch. Now, this is the second project I would like to talk about. This is the AG Experience Center. Now, this is situated in a very, very old building. And when these two brothers who own this place came to us and said, we want to have a showroom, which should be an experience. And we would like to keep the tiles and the finishing material, which is all Italian, all niche, and brands that are very, very important and expensive. So this would be a place where people would walk in with appointment. They will not be just going through the place to look at this tile and that tile and not be able to buy it or something like that. This would be a place where they came in, they spent a lot of time. It was like buying a wedding trousseau, you know. When you buy your wedding trousseau, you spend a lot of time looking at things, spend a lot of time figuring out the details that are going to go on to it. And it is normally by appointment, where the person who is doing your trousseau spends a lot of time with you. So this is how it was going to be. Now, when you spend a lot of time at a particular place, you obviously want some kind of refreshment area. You want a breakout space. You want to see the place in a different light all the time. So that was our brief. I mean, that was our thought process when we took this project up. Now, what we had was this entire facade looking onto the road with a small little balcony sticking out. And this facade also had balconies, but they were looking into internal spaces. All these columns and beams were placed quite awkwardly for a large showroom. And we had to really work around that. Now, if you see on the plan, this sort of area is different, looks different than this, and this. So we segregated it into 4 different kind of experiences with a coffee break in between. So there is no fatigue when you go through the entire thing. You can wait here, you can sit here, you can ponder over whether you like it or not, whether you want to review it or not. And it sort of is a refreshing feeling. Now, when you come in, this is the entry. This is the entry. This is the box where you enter it from. This has a good height. So this box is something that we kept at a human height level, where you come in, walk in under, say, 7 feet, and come in, and then you feel the height is even bigger, even taller. And that becomes the real experience. So once you are greeted by the receptionist here and guided to wherever you want to go, you can circulate yourself around this coffee bar counter. Now, one of the brands, one of the most important brands here was Versace. Now, Versace is such a brand that you have to give it the utmost experience. You cannot just walk through Versace. You have to be into Versace. People who will walk into Versace are definitely there to buy Versace. So they need a corner of their own. They need an experience of their own. So that is why Versace happened here. And all the other brands are happening around it. So once you are here, you are in an enclosure which sort of talks only Versace, is visually only Versace. You don't see any other tile or you don't see any other material over there. So you're fully and finally surrounded by Versace. So I will have to come back to the drawings later again, I guess. This is what you were saying when you said use the keyboard. Tara.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for the tip. Okay, so this is how you enter. Like I told you, this is a box which is at a human scale level. And can you see the ceiling is much higher? So when you walk into this and you come here, that itself is an experience. It's like how you go to a mandir, you enter through a smaller portion, smaller height, and then finally you are exposed to a height which you feel is much higher because much higher than it is because you've gone through that tunnel. So this is that reception. The material that is used, this entire place is finished in the material that they would sell. So if you wanted to see a tile, you could just look at the floor, you look at the cladding and realize whether you liked it or not. So these were those niche group that they were dealing with. All Italian tiles, all designers, all very, very important brands. This is the entry box. This is how you come in. And this is the wall, which is highlighted. As you walk along this wall, you can feel the texture of this tile, and this company need not tell what it is. Now, this chain link that you see here is a visual separation between section 1 and section 2, so that whoever is sitting here is not disturbed by what is happening on this side of the section. Although the transparency is maintained so that the place feels bigger. Now, this is the connection between this is the central portion where you are connected everywhere. If you want to just turn around and look at this brand, yes, you can. If you want to turn around and look there, you can. So this is the coffee counter, which may be coffee and snacks, which is the central part of the showroom. You can sit here for much longer than you even want to, This is how it looks. So if there is a presentation made by the dealers, then you can see it here. If you have something to show, you can just plug in your external device, and you can share the experience here. You could sit here, discuss it with the architect, with your designer, with your client, and you could actually make it work like a theater while having a cup of coffee as well. So this is how it looks. This is how the section 1 and section 2 of the tiles look. Now, what the restraint here was a beam that was crossing this length. So we got these pockets to make mock-ups. This is exactly human height. This is 7 feet. That is all we had. We practically had 8 feet though, but then we had to drop it down for some services and all. And this is a 7 feet mock-up. 7 or 8 feet mock-up for the tiles. Now these are all changeable panels. These two sides are mirrors so that you could further expand the space and not realize that it is just a tiny box. Sorry. Where was I? So here too, if you notice the material palette, to lose out on the services, we have colored the ceiling black, and we have decided to highlight only what is important. So you don't really, here we have taken the tiles for light because this is something that the company is selling. This is something that people need to see. But the services, they don't need to. The light sources, they don't need to. So this is where we have given the cutoff. These are some sliding panels that exhibit the tiles, and they very, very changeable palette. And then again, you could have a discussion here about whatever you're choosing. Oh, okay. What am I doing again? Go down. So the USP of this place, when we walked into this place again, what we realized was a series of beams. This was a very, this wasn't a space which was easy to deal with. Somewhere there were low beams, somewhere there was high ceiling, somewhere there was low ceiling, somewhere there was no ceiling. It was very difficult because it was a very, very old building, and we couldn't do much about the structural details here. So we came across series of these beams in the area where Versace was located. Now what happens in such a place is that you have to realize that tile or the material that is exhibited is of utmost importance to the client. What you design has to stay as the backdrop. What you design has to very quietly complement what is being shown. And that probably is the winning streak for a showroom. You don't sort of shout, the interiors don't shout, the design doesn't shout, it just stays as a quiet but complementary backdrop to the exhibits. Now what we decided to do with those was make walls. See, we couldn't, most of the material there was the material that the clients provided and which we had to put there. So we didn't have so much choice about what we were using as a material. So what we decided to use was, what we decided to make do with was the ceiling. As you saw that above the coffee counter, we made a checkered grid, which is very, very imposing, but it doesn't disturb anything else. That stays over the coffee counter, and it makes the coffee counter very important and exclusive. So similarly, we wanted to deal with the Versace areas exclusive. And since Versace is a brand which has little bit of bling and decoration, and we couldn't overpower that, what we did was we had this kind of a roof, curved roof, and we actually put bricks on it. So now this is how it looks. This is how it looks when in construction. This is how it looked when we saw the place first and were wondering what to do with the ceiling and how to make it complement Versace. This is what we figured out. This is how we did it. We realized we don't have the floor, we don't have the walls to display, so let's play with the ceiling. And this is how it looks now. So this portion is totally Versace, displays everything that is Versace, right from the accessories, the tiles, and this is a screen which is the typical Greco border which you recognize Versace by. These are their flooring patterns, the inlays. Now all this you can't overpower by using a roof which has too much on it. Also, it is a classic brand, so we decided to use brick cladding, mute the rest of the beams and whatever was available to us, and provide that little element which was decorative. So this is how it looks. With the drapes and the living room setup, when you walk here, it really feels like some kind of an elite and exclusive seating. You're free to sit here and discuss, and the environment has changed from the coffee bar to a plush seating. It does look like somebody's house, somebody's colonial house. This is how it looks. The bathroom mock-up with chandeliers, with crystal chandeliers, the sheer drapes, the luxury sheer drapes, and all the living room setup. Every other material that has been used here is what they sell, except this. But then I don't think this really shouts. This in fact complements the entire setup. It gives a European feel where you probably you've seen those buildings, exposed brick buildings with the decorative windows and sort of French windows and heavy drapes and this kind of decorative furniture. So this is how it looks. So whenever you're in this section, you cannot forget this is Versace section. You don't have to ask. Now this is the owner's cabin. This is the owner's own workspace. And this is very, very minimalistic, very, very functional, very clean, very neat. Nothing like what you saw in Versace, no clutter at all. Only the color play. This little space is almost like it is a different project in the same space. So going back to the plan. Oh, this is here we are. Now, after seeing those slides, you will probably realize how the planning works. This is the connector visual connected to every other place, and yet they have their own independent look about it. This is that owner's cabin which I said. This is how it looks. This is how it changes from the modern, very modern bar counter to the very, very colonial French, European look. Now, of course, this space is contained by that Versace detailing of the partition. This is the entrance. This is the display, both side display. This is the bar counter that connects beyond the Versace screen onto the right and onto this place and onto the place at the back. Even this is a strong ceiling, I feel, but with its color, and its basic plain simple grid, it is not as eye-catching as the brick ceiling. As disturbing, I would say. It is definitely eye-catching, but it is this doesn't disturb at all. So again, coming to the understanding of the space, we have to make a very, very conscious effort as to what we are seeing and what we are absorbing and what data we are assimilating towards making the design work. Okay, now coming to the, have I overrun my time? Coming to the third project, which is a residence. Now, dealing with residences is really difficult because there are personal spaces, there are common spaces, there's a lady of the house, there's a grandmother of the house, and you have to work with a lot of people. So that actually happens in their personal spaces when you detail out their personal spaces. But there are these common spaces which have to appeal to everybody in the house. When you walk into a living room, when all the 4 or 5 members of the family walk into the living room, they have to feel that it belongs to them, each one of them, from the little one to the grandmother of the house. So basically, that is how the residences work. With the residences, we work with people more with the psychological aspect. We are more of psychoanalysts when we work with them. We try and understand their psychology. We try and understand their requirements, their needs, and the way they think, the way they behave. Everything has to be taken into account. So it takes longer to establish a language to detail out a residence than any other thing, I think, because it's a personal connect. Everybody has a personal connect to the place. And also as designers, we have to leave our mark on it. So we become the family too. So this I have chosen, we must have done hundreds of residents till now, but I chose this particularly because here we practically had no wall to deal with. The only wall that was there had doors punctured in it. And it was when we walked into this place, that is what we absorbed first. Okay, there is one wall, and that wall has doors to 3 rooms, and no other wall. So what do? Then we come back and we discuss and we thrash it out and we say, again, we have the ceiling, which is uninterrupted. So the common thread that probably links all these projects that you must have realized is that we have played with the ceiling, we have played with the possibility of what looked like an impossible thing to do. Now, let me take you through the images and then we come back to the drawings to understand them. Otherwise, it is a typically 3-bedroom apartment, three-bedroom apartment. One is the master bedroom, the guest bedroom, and the guest or parents bedroom, and the children's bedroom. And this whole thing is the family space, come terrace and living room and dining with the kitchen and utility all around it. This is how we enter. Now there was this, if I go back to the plan, this is where you enter. This is where you enter. And we have this, yes, I said we had no walls, but yes, we have this one wall to play with where a lot of services were coming by into this duct. So this is how it has been used. We have this textured grid that sort of continues onto the ceiling, and every groove, every little darker groove that you see is a shutter, and it opens either as shoes unit or some kind of storage or the distribution board. And then it also forms the entrance lobby. This is the pause space where if you're wearing your shoes, you sit here, or if some stranger is coming in, you just keep him here for some time. The material palette here that you see here is minimum again. It's wooden floor, wooden texture, and just a small part of the ceiling is painted. So this is how it was more or less when we saw it. This was that long wall which had doors. This is the third door, and there is no wall. This overlooks the terrace, a huge terrace. Now these people are not so much into partying or socializing, and they are very private people. So such a big terrace also meant putting it to good use. So you will see that ahead how it happened. So this is how it happened. This wall hides the doors. This entire paneling hides the doors in the same surface. This is that terrace that you see. This is what we enclosed. Partially we kept it open for people to walk out. And this turned into a large puja room where the lady of the house is, her entire morning revolves around a puja. And she wants her kids to get that exposure too. Whatever she's chanting, whatever she's reading, she wants them to be a part of it too, knowingly or unknowingly. That was her brief. So this has become the puja room. So if the nani is sitting here and the daughter-in-law is praying, she's still a part of that. And the night activity, this becomes a TV. Of course, they have television in their rooms also. But if they're watching some activity which is happening, to some matches or some kind of event that they want to watch together, they can sit here and watch it together. So this is how the entire scene changed. From a wall which was a deterrent because all the doors opened into this, a terrace which was not a party zone, which had to be private. It was bigger than the living room itself per se. This is how we opened it up. So this is the one that overlooks the outside. It has a beautiful green cover. You can sit here and you can keep watching the sunrise and sunset over here. And this entire thing is the puja room. So normally what happens is in such large apartments, people have to carve out place for God. You know, it is very ironical. They have huge living rooms, huge terraces, huge bedrooms and huge bathrooms. But in the end, the place for God has to be carved out. Acha nahi, yahin pe kahin rakh dete hai. So that is somehow ironical. Actually, I am not much into puja or anything at all. But when we deal with people, I'm just sharing my experiences with you. But this was a good thing that we did, because here the sanctity of the place is totally, completely maintained. Of course, there are pull-out doors here. If she wants to make it a private place, this can be closed and she can be inside, and it is her room, which is as important, as beautiful as the rest of her house. This is the other side. This behind this wall is the entrance where I showed the first picture to you. You walk in and that little round chair was there. It is behind this. Now just see how this is transformed. This is how it looks once it's transformed. That is, these are the doors to the bedrooms. These are flushed and you don't sort of realize that there are doors here. This is the terrace that is an extension of the living room. This is the kitchen, dining. Behind this is the entrance and the master bedroom, etc. This ceiling was brought down to bring in the AC and further cozy up the place. Because as you saw, it felt like one big hall. And we had to identify each area and make it cozy. So this makes the dining area a little cozy. The partition, this ceiling that drops down to the lower level, it gives its own identity to the dining place. This is the place I was talking about, where the children are doing their own thing on the daybed. The mother is praying, but whatever she is saying or doing is subconsciously absorbed by the children sitting here. A nice green cover all along the terrace. This is how it was. This is how it was, and this is how it looks now. This is how it looks now. So you can control the light coming in through the day, east or west, and you can still be at peace in this area. Now I am going back to the USP of the project again. This is how we saw it, and we realized we had to do something to make it look different, something to make it look unique. So again, we looked up at the ceiling, uninterrupted, no services. There are no beams crisscrossing here. It's a beautiful length from one end to the other end, beautiful width from one end to the other end. And this is what happened there. You see this soothing color? No hanging fittings coming down, just track lights and some diffuse light. This became the USP of the project. When we told the clients that we are going to color your entire ceiling in this teal color, they were shocked because the space is quite big that way to imagine. This is the stage at which they saw it. And they said, no, this entire area can be colored. It is not possible. They were sort of accustomed to black after seeing some of our projects, but the entire ceiling can become blue or green or yellow was not something that they could take in. So they must have, once the paint shade was done, they must have visited the site at least 10-15 times and just looked at the ceiling and not the rest of the things, just to get used to the fact that their ceiling is a different color. So it was a good experience. And then they said, we can't live without this now. We cannot imagine it in any other color. We can't imagine it white. We can't imagine it black. This is it. This is how it has to be. Same with the puja room actually. She didn't initially the thought process was we are putting it away in the terrace. But if this is the environment around it is beautiful and the place is ample, it's roomy, it's airy, it's well lit, then your entire puja has meaning. And that's how it became. This is the master bedroom. These are the windows which open along with the textured wardrobe area. This linear texture continues all along the window, and this shutter opens if you want to open, and there is a blind behind to control the light. So as you must have noticed, we don't play with the material in bits and parts. It's sort of integrated. It's I would say it's a continuous palette that we always use. It sounds somewhat architectural more than interior designing, which where interior designing has become use of elements only. This, I will say, is space planning. This, I will say, is a conscious effort, a conscious disciplinary effort to make the space work and look aesthetically pleasing at the same time. It is very, very simple. It is easy on the eyes. It is not complicated. It doesn't clutter your mind at all. This is a children's bedroom. So I think everybody has a children's bedroom in mind with lots of colors. So these were very, very young children, and we decided to introduce these children to basic colors, basic red, blue, yellow first, instead of going towards the in-between colors. So they can tell my room is green, blue, and yellow. This is a small little play area for them. When these screens close, this is a red box around which they sit. That's their platform bed. Since they're young, they even if they fall down, they're like 6 inches. They're rolled down only 6 inches, which actually is a playful activity for them right now. This is the guest room. Here, the color tones and the palette is very, very muted. This is the occupants of this room keep changing. So this is a very neutral color palette, very quiet, very peaceful. Here again, we have continued this wardrobe and storage area into this screen. Once you open this screen, there is a window behind and there are blinds to control the light. So when you walk in, what you see is this entire textured wall. The door is somewhere here, and what you see is the entire textured wall. And once you face the bed, this is the quiet look about it. You see the diffused lighting that is being used. This is a trough that throws light up at the ceiling, and it's never in the eye. So if these ceiling lights are off, it's a very soothing ambience here. Okay, I am to the end of my presentation, but I would like to go back to the layout. So this was how it was. We entered from here and we came in here and we were exposed to this space, which is a huge ceiling of teal, which people take back as a memory. Oh, that house with the green ceiling or a blue ceiling. You know, that color is not really green or blue. So some people call it blue, some people call it green, or bluish green or greenish blue as they wish to. And this is how it appears. When you stand here, it is just a stunning view, a stunning vista from this point to the end of the space. And this is the space that everybody in the house enjoys, different activity. This is the puja room activity. This is the man of the house sitting with a friend here and having a cup of tea. These are the kids talking or parents talking. Something is happening at the dining table. And this is a perfectly integrated space for everybody to work around it. That I think is the beauty of this place. So I'll just quickly run through the slides for the students to absorb more. Again and again, I maintain that you have to make a conscious effort to understand what the site is giving you initially for multiple interventions that you may create for the user. Thank you so much. So I just hope students have something to take away from this experiences of ours. These were just 3 small projects shared for their benefit and for their understanding. So although these were finished projects that we showed, there is a lot that goes in the background to make them work, make them happen, including the people, the services, and everything else that we have to deal with. So even such a small project is not very easy to work with. But yes, one has to make the effort. Remember, it's an intellectual activity.
Yeah, that was wonderful, Anjali. I think I mean, the students, if they would like to interact and ask, if they have any queries, questions, we leave the floor to them for interaction. Any
Hi, ma'am.
students, faculty, yeah. Yes,
Hi.
yes.
Actually, I had a question regarding your first
Junaid.
design.
That is
Design, yeah.
Junaid. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So the cafe, the restaurant which you had designed. So in that, the interior was completely black. Okay.
Yes,
So
yes.
usually black color absorbs more light. And so how are you planning? Matlab, what did you all do to keep the room at a normal room temperature, the space at a room temperature? Because it will be heated, right?
Yes. Now let me explain this to you. If you notice that there was a glass facade which I talked about.
Yeah.
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 So we did not cover that glass facade. We did not use a cosmetic method to give a screen to that facade. We have actually used bricks that absorb heat. So we have kept space between the glass and the brick screen so that air breathes. Somewhere along that length, there are cutouts in the floor and ceiling where the vent can happen along
Okay.
the entire building.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
so it is like keeping an air gap. Also, whatever little hot air does happen there can come in through those little punctures that you see
Yeah.
as the result of the design of that bricks.
Yes. Okay.
But that is very little. That is very small.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
That just about generates a pattern. It is like using a, a, a screen with tiny holes or punctures.
Okay.
You let
Yeah.
in the light, but you keep the heat out. Most of it, and that puncture is sideways for that brick. It is a 3 to 4 inch brick. The puncture is sideways, so you don't get the head-on heat inside. Most of it escapes through the gap that is left between the glass facade and the brick.
Oh, okay, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I have a question.
Yes, you are Spurti.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, this is regarding your last project, the house. So I have a question that every individual space that you showed us had a different theme to it, like a
Yes,
different color scheme.
yes.
However, somehow it looked like every individual place was a part of a whole house. So in our
That
designs,
the
how
idea.
can we achieve that kind of singularity?
So, Spurti, you actually have to develop a school of thought. I mean, you can't copy Charles Correa and Hafiz Contractor in the same house. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. You have to develop your own school of thought. And as you walk through the project, you have to keep running it in your mind and keep thinking what is happening behind you and ahead of you. That way, you will manage to keep the spaces connected.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you're doing the internal space, you cannot just forget what is happening in the living room. What if the door was left open? That space should still feel a part of the living room. Okay. You get my
Yes.
point? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you so much for this wonderful experience. Disha here.
Yeah.
Ma'am, question is quite similar to what Spurti asked just now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
our last project that was the Spectrum House, we
Mm-hmm.
saw how, uh, like, for us, it is quite difficult to integrate spaces which have different functions of their own. Like you showed us in the living space where the puja room also blended in as well, and using the terrace part of it, which we didn't quite think of it at the beginning of the presentation, where we could not actually think of how you could really integrate such spaces. So every time we try to do those, like put effort consciously, but it gets doesn't mix well and blend in, or we can't still give an identity to it. So how to approach those spaces, or how to go about those things?
Maybe when it comes to interiors, people are thinking of too many materials at a time. Whenever
That's
they
true.
want to break a space, they want to break the material too. That is not necessarily a good idea. If you saw the living room, if you noted the living room, the same marble flooring continues outside to give a bigger feel. You know what we could have done? We could have used those design pattern tiles in the puja room because it was a puja room. We could have done
Yes.
that. We could have broken the entire teal ceiling into parts and colored it in other color or left it white or whatever. But the whole thing is to connect, the whole idea is to connect that space. Allow that puja room to come into the living room when required. So the material palette also flows smoothly, especially when it comes to interiors. Actually, even for architecture, if you look at all four elevations, when you're drawing and designing all four elevations, do you use one material on one facade and some other material on other facade? Do you do that? You try
No.
to continue the same material on all four elevations, albeit highlight some part where you must have created some space which is very important for that elevation.
Yes.
So to give you an example, if you clad the entire building in aluminum panels, okay, and then you have on one elevation you have just a balcony coming out, which you would like to do in another color, another material, another format altogether. A big round balcony comes out. So that you could highlight, because there is a possibility to highlight there. But you will not break the material that has come on the other three elevations till it touches the balcony. Will you do that?
No, ma'am. Yes, I got it. Thank you
You
so
get the
much.
point? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, ma'am. Anuj here. Hello. Yeah, can
Yes.
I? Yeah. I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned that the puja ghar gets the last, as in through the client itself, it kind of gets the last this thing that, okay, you need to carve out in the space for the house. So have you kind of come across any time that your client has kind of now suddenly, as in middle of the design process, has asked for a Vastu compliant design? And your comments on that?
Yes. So Vastu compliance has become a norm. So yes, sometimes it is a pain in the neck, because people have asked us to make kitchens where there was a living room before and all that and all that. But then, see, our job is to think rationally. Our job is to put across our thought process most analytically and in a convincing manner as to how Vastu works as per climatology and not somebody's state of mind. That is a big job that we have to do. And I'm happy to say most of the time people do listen to it. I mean, we don't really give up very easily, and we keep telling people, no, this is not how it will work. Whatever bad happens to you, it is not happening because your bathroom is here or not here. There is good happening as well. Why don't you just look at the good that is happening? Why don't you just count the blessings instead of counting the curses? वो तो सबके घर में होने वाला है, सबको जो मिलने वाला है मिलने वाला है. So let's look at the good side. Just like I said, when it comes to residences, sometimes we are psychoanalysts as well. And then we actually make the client list out the good things that has happened good thing that has happened to them recently, and most of them come out with quite a number. And then we have to tell them, look, this is not because how your house was. It is because how you behave and how you are and how you think.
Thank you, ma'am.
So Vastu is basically climatology. So we believe in the east and west. We believe in getting the east sunlight inside and keeping the south out. But yeah, only to that extent.
Anjali, there's a question in the chat box by Renuka. I think she's not able to join.
Oh, yeah, she was not
Ma'am, in the last picture of the guest room, curtains of the windows were covered and flushed with facade of the same. Can you please tell us the reason behind it?
Okay, now the guest room has a wardrobe right in front of the bed and all along the entire wall. Now we wanted to give a feeling as if that entire texture is continuous from one end to the other end. And the window, it is a guest room which is not occupied all the time. So the window could as well become a part of that wardrobe, could be open when required. The curtains could be drawn and you could control light. That way it gives a uniformity to the wall. If it was a children's room, probably we would have just created a box there like we created in the kids' room, where the kids actually sit on that windowsill and do some activity. But in the guest room, it was not required so. So that entire wall, like the entrance lobby, has a texture all along that maintains the continuity of the room. You know, somehow the thing is, if you don't break a wall surface into too many fragments or too many finishes, it appears much bigger than it actually is. So this is something that happens subconsciously that we notice.
I think that's all from the students. Yeah.
I told you, 2 o'clock the kids are sleepy. Especially on a weekend and with a lockdown, and there's nothing to do.
No, I'm sure there were quite a few, and they did enjoy your lecture. Okay.
I would much rather have a siesta.
Thank you so much for your wonderful insights.
Thank you so much.
I mean, it was really great to see your projects, and we would like our students to interact in many more sessions to come further. Okay, Anjali's office is an only girls' office. I think Ashwin is the only male there.
He is the captain of our ship.
Yeah, he's the captain of the ship, and only girls are employed. And there are 2 more bodyguards. That's Zero, her pet. So he's always part of the office.
And my man Friday, my office boy.
Yeah.
So actually, the most important people in my life are the men. But somehow it was a conscious effort to have an all-girls office because we realized that the opportunities that come up are in a different manner for the girls and the boys. So here we run the office like a family. We are all together. We provide them a very, very safe environment where they feel like working. They're happy working here. And even if they take a break for some reason, they come back, continue with the work with us. See, whatever break you need to take as a woman, you need to take. There are going to be children, there are going to be marriages, there are going to be everything that happens around in life is going to be there. But coming back to your work, coming back to the profession that you gave 5 years to, you chose that profession, you gave time to it, and now if you're not doing it, I think that's not a nice way of looking at it. So all the girls who have attended here, please keep up with your profession. Don't give up just because you're married, just because you're you're a mom or a daughter-in-law or something like that. It's not a good enough reason, okay, to give up. One way or the other, you can stay in tune. You can keep in the profession and keep doing whatever good in whatever way you can.
Thank you so much, Anjali. Thank you so much. It was great listening to you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, bye-bye. All of you, take care, please.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Yeah.
Bye. See you soon
Bye-bye.
again.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.